Chairman. Let me add my thanks to the prior members of the committees for this panel, these witnesses. I can't remember when we had a more interesting discussion in Washington, and as my colleague, Mr. Newhouse, suggested, it's a little disturbing as well. Ambassador Lighthizer, your opening statement provided some key insights and recommendations that will come before this committee. I strongly agree with your sense for a need for trade regime that helps our country, our workers, and strives for technological independence and regulates both incoming and outgoing investments for us to our benefit. You know, this is essential to national security and economic prosperity. And as our trade deficit continues to grow, global threats continue to emerge, you know, we must not continue transferring wealth to an adversary. I thought you did a great job outlining that in your testimony. I enjoyed your points on the congressional reform of the de minimis tariff thresholds, making it harder for CCP to elude our customs. De minimis being the threshold where our duties go into effect. And it's currently $800 per person per day in the United States. And it incentivizes gaming our laws. Foreign exporters, as you mentioned, can access our markets for free when the importation is less than 800, or they transship it to a country that has that, enjoys that. Right now, China is doing a shell game with their exports to the United States by laundering them through Mexico and Canada, thereby dodging essentially all duties. Specifically, you cited the Mexican company Baja Fulfillment as a particularly example of bad actors, but I think it's just one example as well. This has to stop. So, Your Excellency, what can Congress do to end China's shell games in trade?
Wow. And I have 2 minutes and 57. So, for me, this is why I, after thinking about this forever, said you just have to put tariffs on, have strategic decoupling. You figure out the technology. I'll go along with you on whatever you come up with. But you can't keep transferring hundreds and hundreds of billions, maybe $500 billion, and in stolen technology, maybe it comes to $800 billion a year. I mean, their economy is only 17 trillion, right? I mean, in other words, you're every year you're giving them. I think it's fair to say that this, as I said, this economic miracle really is just our economic stupidity, and not crossing that line and realizing what's at stake. I mean, this is really, really serious stuff. Eventually, we're going to have strategic decoupling, right? I mean, it's just no question. The only question is whether you're going to do it before or after it's too late. That's the only issue. So you said, what would I do? I would put tariffs on. So one way to think about this, and I have it in the written testimony, I didn't say it here, one way to think about this is, why do they have these large surpluses every year? Why does that happen? Now, some of it is stuff we can identify. Oh, you cheated on this, you cheated on that, you dumped, you saw, whatever the things are. But a lot of it is just systemic. It is the deficits in and of themselves, when they're massive and continual, are themselves protectionist. They're absolute proof that they're not playing by the rules. So they discourage consumption in their own country. They put all the money into exports. What that does is it forces the rest of the world, including us, to go into debt. So how do you counter that? You have two ways. You either continue to go into debt or you put tariffs on. I mean, there's just literally, you could, besides tariffs, you could put, some other kind of barrier. But you either have a barrier, I would say tariffs, or you go into debt. And it's happening across the world. I mean, somehow you have to change that. In my opinion, at some point you're going to come to the view is we can't continue to go into debt to China.
So I don't know who's more upset, you or us.
Least of all for televisions and T-shirts and all this stuff, right? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Eventually, you're all going to say we have to change.
So I think what I'm going to do, I have 26 seconds left, so I think what I'm going to do instead is commit you to swear that you'll help us in the future. We're going to put you on speed dial and follow a lot of these ideas and also your other panelists, because I've heard some great ideas here tonight and some great insights. So I want to thank you all very much for taking the time to spend some time with us this evening.
Well, I appreciate it, and I am, and I'm sure the other do, because I know Roger and I met Dr. Schmidt are available. I mean, if you ought to just call, and if you have a senior staff person that wants to call. I mean, this is really important to all of us. This is what we do.
You could text, you could email, we're findable, trust me.
Yeah,
We will
okay,
now
we can
provide
trade
the
that, yeah.
witnesses' cell phone numbers on national TV. Yeah. Please state for the record. Yeah.